welcome to the YwR Podcast. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic that a lot of you might relate to. It's all about corporate fitness and wellness. A lot of us have jobs where we have to sit and work long hours in front of screens. How do you make time for yourself? How do you make time to ensure that you stay healthy and fit? And to discuss this with me, I have someone who I've known for many, many years, Siddharth Raman, who is the CEO of Sports Interactive, which is a sports tech company. He is going to talk all about his routine, how he inspires the 700 employees of Sports Interactive to stay fit and stay healthy while also doing his job and working a full-time job at it, and also running full marathons. Welcome, Siddharth. Good to have you here.
Hi, Rashmi. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Okay, so let's start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You've already given a nice intro. That covers what I've been doing for the past 7 years. But prior to that, I've worked in advertising, and prior to that, post-engineering, I worked in a technology company. Been a sports fan all my life, but for the longest time I was a fan and and therefore loved watching sport. And over the past 8 years or so, I've gotten into the journey of even trying to practice some kind of sport and exercise, and looking forward to having a chat about that today.
Okay, so I know that you've started running marathons. What sparked your interest in running and also towards keeping yourself healthy and fit? Because I know that at one point you weren't into this as much as you are into it right now.
I wasn't into it at all. There was a time when I couldn't run more than 2 kilometers without stopping or giving up. And I think the inspiration was the Tata Mumbai Marathon. At that point in time, the Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon. I was working in a company where my boss, who was 60 years old, was actually participating in the half marathon, and he had done about 6 or 7 half marathons by then. And I thought to myself, if someone who's double my age can do that, why can't I do it? And I actually ended up buying a charity bib because it's so difficult to get registrations otherwise in the half marathon. And I just went and said I'll finish it no matter what. I was obviously training a little bit leading up to the half marathon. This was in 2016. I did a few 10Ks going into it, but half marathon was the first time I did. And for me, it was also the hook of running on the ceiling, the Bandra Worli ceiling, which as a resident of Mumbai, you can only get to do on that day. And that was actually where it started. And I did that with limited training. And on that day, after I finished the marathon in one piece, I say half marathon in one piece, I said, okay, this is fun. Now I need to train for it, religiously. And I actually started doing that. I got into a routine where I would run 3 to 4 days a week, maintain a certain weekly mileage to ensure that I'm training for the next half marathon. And with training, I was actually able to reduce my total run time by about 15 minutes in 1 year for a half marathon. And since then, there's been no looking back.
And now you run full marathons.
Yes, I've done 4 full marathons.
Wow.
Completed 4 of them, and again, all in Mumbai. I think there are times during a full marathon where you feel, why am I doing this to myself? But I think all of that is overruled by the joy of crossing the finish line, even if it takes you longer than what you would have planned to do.
So how do you make time for training and running while being a CEO of a company and running this company? How do you ensure that you have time for that and you're working full time?
So I think 2 or 3 things. One is a little bit of routine and consistency that internally you need to get used to, and that comes on the back of saying no to a lot of things. No late nights, no dinner parties, or minimal dinner meetings or interactions, and I try and call it a day early so that I'm able to wake up on time. And having a fixed schedule really helps. We follow a calendar when we're at work anyway in terms of scheduling all our meetings. I try and follow the same principles in my personal life as well. And it's, I think, also then balancing that with some amount of flexibility, because there are going to be days when work is going to take up a lot of your time and you may not be able to do what you want to, what would have envisaged you want to do from a exercise and fitness perspective. So not beating yourself up too much and starting afresh the next day. That's internal. And second is also, I think, a great support system in the family and in the company that not just Sports Interactive, but in past companies as well, where colleagues have been super, they've been super supportive, super appreciative of everything that I've been doing. And they sometimes adjust their own schedules, or they adjust things if we need to be catching up on certain things to ensure that I don't have to compromise too much on my routine.
But this only comes because you have this a privilege of being at a higher position, I'm guessing.
Not really. So even when I wasn't in a senior position, I've been fortunate enough and lucky enough to have colleagues who actually respect this. And even in this current role, while yes, I am in a senior position in my company, we do end up dealing with a lot of clients and customers who we do work for, and they are also super appreciative of and supportive of the kind of lifestyle choices I've made. So the external factors are also I'm extremely lucky and privileged to be able to pursue what I want to pursue with that.
Nice. So I remember there was a point when you were detected with high blood pressure. Can you tell us a little bit about what went through your mind when you were detected with it? I know that when you go to a doctor, they'll say that, you need to be on medication lifelong. So what was that? What was the feeling that went through one? And did you completely avoid taking medications and reverse your condition?
Yeah, I was detected with high blood pressure before I turned 30, which was obviously a bit of a shocker when that happened. And I was asked to go on medication, but I also realized that if I take medication, it is going to be lifelong once I get into that routine. So I did a little bit of research to try and understand, is there a way to not get on medication and make lifestyle modifications, changes. And exercise was obviously one thing, but then I also experimented with diet, and I ended up I was vegetarian. I used to eat meat until one point in time, but I turned vegetarian, and I was vegetarian for about 4 or 5 years till then. And then I said, let's give a vegan diet, a vegan lifestyle a shot, and I actually stuck at it. And with being consistent with both exercise and diet, I was able to wean off medications and reverse high diabetes, high blood pressure. I obviously need to keep checking regularly to ensure that it's still very much it's still in control and not beyond the permissible limits. But the diet and lifestyle changes have obviously helped make go off the medication and hopefully stay there.
So do you think, like you spoke about being vegan and being on basically you avoid dairy and you also don't eat meat.
Yes.
So do you think avoiding these kind of foods helps you with your marathon running as well, apart from the high blood pressure, etc.?
Yes. So not just being vegan, but I think being mindful about the kind of food I eat. So even stuff like gluten, right? Stuff heavy in simple carbs. Trying to have more complex carbs instead of simple carbs, more fiber in meals, more protein. Even in a vegan diet, it's important to realize that you're going to deal with B12 deficiencies. We all are D3 deficient anyway. So having a sense of all of those as well, and monitoring that on a regular basis and taking the right kind of changes on a daily basis that you need to make and also monitor it is multiple different things that I've had to keep in mind. But I think it all pays off, and it definitely helps in marathon running, right? It helps be consistent. It helps recover faster. So my marker for a full marathon is how I feel the next day, and I can say that every full marathon till date that I've finished, next day, marathons are on a Sunday, Monday morning, 9:30, I'm fresh and ready for work. Wow. That's how I try and measure how well my body is coping, because recovery is a key part of this. You just can't always be at it, and all these changes have helped me. The start of the journey is always easy when you start seeing a lot of changes, but sustaining it is the tough part. And that is where I won't say it's easy, but sticking to it has its long-term benefits.
Yeah. Okay. So since you work at a sports tech company, I'm guessing sports is a big part of everything that you'll do. How, and also you are so into running and fitness, how do you inspire or how do you motivate or how do you nurture this in all the employees also that work for your company? Do you all have special days that you'll do something with them? Do you all encourage them to, be healthy, fit and something like that?
Yeah. So one thing that I personally am a big believer of is this entire concept of training to be a corporate athlete. And this is a Harvard Business School study that was done across multiple different senior executives or even executives in general across companies, where they try to correlate their performance to how what kind of a lifestyle they were leading, the kind of food they were eating, how much exercise they were able to get in, and the overall the overarching principle is athletes who play in sport, right? They have very short-lived careers call it 10 to 15 years at the max, right? And they train for months for 2 hours of 2 hours of an event, or if you're a sprinter, 10 to 15 seconds of an event, right? And then the amount of time they spend on recovery also after that to ensure that they're fresh. It's the same principles, but in the corporate world, you actually end up having a career of 30 to 40 years. And if you don't take care of your body the same way, or you don't take care of your lifestyle the same way, something's off, right? So personally, for me, that's a big driver, and I would recommend anyone who's working in the corporate world to actually, read the corporate athlete article on it's available on YwR for free, and the entire principle over there is managing your energy, not your time, because if you're able to manage your energy well, everything else will fall into place. That's as a executive in the corporate world where there's so many demands on your time. So that's what I try and tell people personally and try and get them to follow. And as an organization, yes, we have a lot of we have a health and wellness program. We have a run club at Sports Interactive where people can participate. I mean, just practice runs. We had about 40 people participating in the Mumbai Marathon last year across various different categories.
Nice.
We have something called the SI Games, where the entire organization is divided into multiple different teams, and every month there's a different sporting event, whether it's cricket, whether it's football, tennis, there's darts, there's carom. It's like the Olympics of sporting events at SI. And we try and encourage people to lead a healthy life. But I also personally feel, as a leader, you don't want to be too pushy either. It's important to lead by example, but then also not try and be too preachy or patronizing. Everyone's an adult. Everyone makes choices, that they're fully aware of the consequences of. And as long as they're making them with all the information available to them, beyond that, you really shouldn't be trying to push too much.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone who works in the corporate sector, who wants to get into fitness and they're really struggling to find the time? This is a common thing, right? They say we don't have time because we have meetings, and after meetings we have to finish our work, and then once you finish, you're just so tired. So what advice would you give to them to just start somewhere? How can they incorporate fitness into their daily life?
So I think the simplest thing is just to try and track how much you're moving every day. A lot, because we work in the corporate world, it's a very sedentary lifestyle. You're sitting at a desk. The best investment, if you don't have it right now, is just a simple a smartwatch or a tracker that counts the number of steps you make every day. Set yourself a target of averaging, call it 6,000-7,000 steps in the first couple of months. Take it up to 10,000, and you'll figure out ways to do it, even if you don't go for a run, don't go for a walk in the morning. And I think not finding time is a subjective thing, right? Sometimes even 20 minutes of exercise in a day can set you up well for the rest of the day. So it's not about going to the gym and lifting heavy weights for 45 to 60 minutes, or going out for a 10k 15k run every day. That it requires, even if it's 15-20 minutes of workout to get you into the zone, because exercise is for the mind, food is for the body. That's what I've seen. And if you start, and I'm a morning person, so starting off the day with exercise sets me up well to be alert through the rest of the day, and also be tuned in for what needs to be done on the work front. And even when I travel, one of the things that I always try and do is pre-identify a running route around where I'm staying, or if the hotel has a gym, I look at what kind of facilities are there in the gym and plan my workouts. So I think just those small differences, just make versus going in blind, and then on the morning of your travel, you're trying to figure out what you need to do over there. I think those small things make a huge difference. And even when you're, when from a food perspective, I think if you live at home, it's great. You can plan your meals and ensure you're eating healthy. But even if you don't live at home, I think there are always healthy options available, and these don't have to be super expensive. And if you're going out with people, friends, you don't have to give up your social life. What I always do is I look up the menu of the place hours before going in there, so I know what I'm going to eat, and I don't need I try and prepare and take all my decisions well before.
I don't know if everyone is as disciplined as you are.
I'm just trying to put everything out there, so something or the other people and look, I wasn't always like this. These are things that I've picked up over time, and if you see something's working, why would you want to give up on that, right? So I think stuff like that really I believe helps, and different strokes for different folks, right? I think different things work for different people. This is what has worked for me, but the idea is just to keep trying, and just the power of turning up every day and doing what is required. Like small things, when I'm in the office, I always walk to the farthest loo whenever I need to take a loo break. So I get enough steps in both ways, right? So
Plus, you also use a standing desk at home, right?
yes. I use a standing desk as well. I have a standing desk in office also. So I toggle between sitting and standing. But yeah, I think small things like this, compounding effect over a period of time really helps.
Yeah. Okay, so looking ahead, how do you see the future of fitness and wellness in the corporate sector?
I think it's extremely important. There's no denying that. I think it's just a question of, as organizations, are we building an environment where it's enabling employees to do that versus forcing it down employees saying you need to do this? Because I don't think if you just call a Zumba instructor once or a gym instructor once and say you do a group exercise and say this is done. I think it's about how do you ensure that as an organization encouraging people to stay healthy consistently, take the right kind of measures. So I remember 2 Diwalis ago, as a Diwali gift for all our employees, we actually gave a smart tracker for a smartwatch to
Wow, I
to
want to
track
work in this
steps.
company.
So and with the intent that it helps people get the right information and then take the right decisions based on that. And at the end of the day, it's an individual call. As an organization, I think it's just about how we are setting up an environment for people to be aware of it and to be able to make the right decisions accordingly.
Yeah.
A big challenge, I think, is lack of awareness. A lot of people don't know stuff, may not necessarily know about the impact of having a carb heavy meal versus a protein heavy meal, looking at stuff like food sequencing. How do you start with a salad, then move to proteins, then have carbs at the end, and try and have more complex carbs than pure carbs? The impact of sugar spikes on your body, and just how different bodies react differently to different types of foods. I think it's about empowering people with the knowledge and then letting them take the call versus being too prescriptive or telling people what needs to be done. I think more and more organizations should be looking at doing that, because the belief is that people are smart enough to make the right choices for them.
Yeah, it's like every time Yoga Day comes up, I get a lot of calls from companies saying, hey, International Yoga Day is coming up, can you do yoga for us? But I think companies don't realize that they need to have a sustained program for their employees so that everyone is really in tune to staying fit, staying healthy, and that will also allow your company to do better, right?
Exactly. The Harvard Business School study also said that as more and more employees took up to a fitness regime and started getting healthier lifestyles, the company performance also financially started doing well. Right now, it's probably correlation and not causation, but still, at the end of the day, if you have healthy employees with who are managing their energy well, it's only going to work in the for the betterment of the organization as a whole.
So my takeaways from this conversation are, one is that discipline is key. You may need to give up on a few things to be able to achieve a few things. Consistency is also key. Is there any last words that you would like to share with someone who... So I don't have a corporate job and I've never worked in the corporate job. So I don't know what it feels like to not exercise or not work out to take a break for more than 2 or 3 days, because I've never done that. So I know people who say that, I've been so busy that I haven't gotten the time to work out for 2 or 3 months. And I can't believe that, people go through something like that as well. So what your top advice to someone who works in a corporate job and who says, okay, now is the time for me to, reverse my aging process or reverse my disease that my body's going through?
So I think in general, and because I'm a sports fan, I'll try and give a sports analogy. It's like playing a test match. I know T20 is the flavor of the test match cricket, where it's 5 days, every day has 3 sessions. So your career is, your corporate career is, call it 30, 40 years, 15 sessions in a test match. Each session is anywhere between 2 to 3 years. There'll always be ups and downs. And I think it's about how do you bounce back from the downs, acknowledging something. If you're going through a rough patch, it's fine, it's normal, everyone goes through it, not beating yourself up for it. I think the process and the journey is more important than the destination. And how do you just ensure that there'll always be bad days, there'll always be good days. And this is not just from a health and lifestyle perspective, but even from a work perspective, right? Not every day is a great day for everyone in office, but as long as the good days outnumber the bad, you're moving in the right direction. So I think it's about just going in with that mindset and always having a long view of what you're doing, and whether it's a bad day, bad week, bad couple of months, or even bad year or bad couple of years, you can always bounce back. And bouncing back doesn't mean going back to where you were before the trough, but even if it's moving in a direction of 30-40% of where you were and getting back there in 2 or 3 years, I think that's how people should really be looking at it, and don't expect overnight successes. I think that's the main thing. Michael Jordan famously said he had to work tirelessly hard for 2 decades to become an overnight success. Roger Federer recently in his commencement speech at Dartmouth said that effortless is a myth, right? He had to work so hard to make it look effortless.
Yeah.
I think the same applies for anything in life.
Not everyone sees the effort that goes into it, right? Like,
Exactly.
I know you wake up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Try to, yes. There are days when I don't wake up at 5 also. But yeah, I think in a month, I'll probably end up waking up at 5, call it 18 or 20 days. I do have not cheat days, treat days. And this I picked up from someone else, where you shouldn't call it a cheat day.
Yeah.
I think you should call it a treat day. And people should look at it that way also. And look, it's not doing stuff, it's not depriving yourself of things. I think it's important to realize that you should be focusing on the stuff that matters, but you should also celebrate small wins and not live a life of deprivation.
Yeah.
That's important.
So the treat days are when you just go crazy and be like, I'll just eat whatever I feel like today.
I just eat whatever I feel like, but also don't go overboard.
Yeah.
I think moderation within that also is important. But eat stuff you wouldn't eat every day, right? But you crave for and you miss, so that the craving is taken care of.
Nice. Any last things that you would like to share about anything at all?
I think I've covered and given enough gyan for today.
So thank you, Siddharth, for joining us. I think it was a very insightful conversation, and I hope that not only people who work in the corporate field, but everyone can benefit with knowing that someone who's had a 9-to-5 job for almost all your life, right? You've done this for how many years? 15, 20 years now?
20 years of close to 12, 15 years of working, but about 8 years of living this life.
8 years of living this life, yeah. But you've had this, you went through a time when you were not very healthy. You had to reverse certain diseases, which is a lifestyle disease. High blood pressure is a lifestyle disease, and it only comes because you don't exercise, you don't eat right, and all of that. You reversed that, and now you're running full marathons, inspiring so many people around. So
not sure about the inspiring part, but yeah.
It's been great having you. Thank you, Siddharth. And I hope you got to learn a lot from what Siddharth had to share with us about his experience and his journey of just creating a sense of health and wellness into his routine and being disciplined about it, and most importantly, being consistent with everything that he does. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next YwR Podcast.
Who takes that? Good morning. Can you tell us about your healthy lifestyle, please? Sleeping 16 hours a day. Can you tell us about that, please?